ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Pranam to all the participants, and we welcome all the participants to our fifth day of IKS-TKDL workshop on traditional knowledge, intellectual property, and people's right. Today, Madam will talk about the ethical aspects of TK, traditional knowledge. What are the concerns we must take when we handle and work with TK? So it may be in the context of education or in the research of TK when we protect, promote, and disseminate the knowledge within TK. What are the important concerns we should take, and what are the IPR sections involved here? So, Madam will explore and we will listen. Pranam, Madam, please start your presentation. Ma'am, you are muted. Could you please unmute yourself?
Can you see the presentation?
Now, could you please reshare once again? Yes. Could you please check? Yes.
Yeah.
Is slides are moving or not? Could you please check? Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. All
please.
Right. Thank you. So very good morning, good afternoon to all of you. We will sort of start from where we left off yesterday, or we would be discussing many of the aspects that also came as questions in your session yesterday. Okay, so we will be discussing those and other things also. And as usual, we will have the question answer session at the end after your assessment. Is that right, Piyushji? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Okay. So we'll start. What I plan to discuss today is the handling and working with traditional knowledge, the ethical aspects. As Piyushji mentioned, we will talk about different aspects like dissemination, like access. Also, we'll talk about research, R&D in traditional knowledge. See, we are all stakeholders and also researchers working in the area of traditional knowledge, and hence we must understand what is the right way to handle traditional knowledge, what is the right way to do research in the area of traditional knowledge, because instead of actually we may have good intentions of doing the work in traditional knowledge, but instead of helping or creating positive effects, we may be detrimental to the knowledge holders. So keeping that in mind, I'll give you some pointers as to how to work with traditional knowledge, something that we have learned over time and also in consultation with our stakeholders. I'll share that with you today. So just to remind you, what will be the ambit of traditional knowledge that we'll be discussing today, especially in the context of handling. Okay. So I told you yesterday, we talked about traditional knowledge digital library. I also told you that the content of the traditional knowledge digital library is basically printed information, published information, that information which is already available possibly in the public domain. Okay. But in that case, maybe not too many questions of ethical handling will arise. There may be some questions even there, but majorly where we will talk about the handling with handling of traditional knowledge will be in the area of undisclosed knowledge. Okay, where this information is not probably in any printed form, or if it is in printed form, it is restricted in use. It is not available to all. It has limited access. Okay? So we will talk about secret information. We will talk about non-codified. By non-codified, I mean something which is not in any printed or fixed format. Okay, or it is not accessible to everyone. That is limited access. In this, we will talk about oral, tribal, folk knowledge, that which is available with individuals, with families, with communities, as we discussed about traditional knowledge holders yesterday, who are basically the beneficiaries or the people who practice these kind of traditional knowledge, or who possess this kind of knowledge, okay, or maybe owner or practitioner. So we also include here manuscripts. Why? Because manuscripts many times have very limited accessibility, okay, especially when manuscripts have been passed over from generation to generation regarding a particular information that is present only within a community or within a family, or at times, when the ecosystem doesn't exist, it could even be present with individuals, okay. And also in repositories like libraries, where there is not much access, and probably it is not even in a script or language that is understood by many unless it has been transcribed or translated. Okay, so all such information requires a high level of protection and also a level of ethical handling, which we will be discussing today. So stakeholders. Now, who are the stakeholders that we will be talking about here? These people are, what I have described here, are all in a way beneficiaries when we talk about traditional knowledge. Okay, they are the creators. Creators, maybe you would wonder how creators, because it's knowledge is all hundreds of years old. We're talking about thousands of year old knowledge. But the creator herein, I mean, we're talking about evolving traditional knowledge. So the dynamic nature. So if anybody has added any element in that context, they would be creators. Practitioners, basically, who practice that particular traditional knowledge. Then you have owners. That is when it is in possession with a particular community or a particular individual, and they are the only people who are actually practicing or acting on that particular knowledge. That will be, we call them as owners. At times, it could be possible that the owners and practitioners are different. Custodians are similar to owners, but like I said yesterday, when there is a compilation or when there is somebody who has collected this information and kept it within them, they may not be exactly owners of the information, but they could be custodians of the information. Right? Then there are those intermediaries. Now, who are the intermediaries? Intermediaries could be anybody who connect any of these stakeholders, okay? The creators with practitioners, practitioners with owners, and all these people, and in some form, they are involved in the, they work for the social benefit of these traditional knowledge holders, okay? Because often it happens that all these traditional knowledge holders, they may be tribals, they may be working from remote areas, and of course, we have seen in a lot of cases misappropriation and other exploitation takes place, and a lot of NGOs and a lot of people individually also are working with these stakeholders in helping them to understand what are their rights and helping them to disseminate the information that they want, control the way the information is accessed, so on and so forth. All these people we will include as intermediaries. A lot of people do work in this area. Okay? Then I will again remind you of some of the provisions that are present in this area. This will help us to understand the further discussions that are happening and where we are basing those concepts of ethical handling. Okay, since we have some international and national provisions, but they are not clear cut in terms of standard SOPs for actually in cases of handling like documentation. Yesterday there was a question also which was asked regarding whether there are any standard procedures. There are none, okay? But we have some background information which probably will guide us to do the things in the right manner, okay? So we have the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now, the Convention on Biological Diversity basically has three objectives. It talks about conservation of biological diversity, It talks of sustainable use of its components. And the third is most important in our context, that is a fair and equitable benefits, sharing of benefits that arise out of the utilization of genetic resources, okay, including appropriate access to genetic resources. Here the term traditional knowledge doesn't come, but when India has adopted the objectives of the CBD in the Biological Diversity Act, we have also included associate traditional knowledge, okay. So that in that way, the associated traditional knowledge also comes into existence. But when you talk about even utilization of genetic resources, a lot of it has associated traditional knowledge. So a certain level of international protection comes in, okay. We also have the Nagoya Protocol, which is the legal framework for implementation of the fair and equitable sharing of benefits. More about sharing of benefits is written in the Nagoya Protocol. Okay, this Nagoya Protocol is also a part of the Convention on Biological Diversity, and it also talks about prior informed consent or approval, which involves the indigenous local communities, where access to, again here it talks about access to genetic resources, but we will take it in a holistic manner, including the associated traditional knowledge. Okay, so you have the Biological Diversity Act, which we again talked about yesterday, and this act was it came into force in 2002, but recently, a couple of years ago, that is in 2023, it was amended. The rules came into existence in somewhere end of 2024, and more recently they have issued, like in April of this year, they have issued guidelines relating to access and benefit sharing. So I will present that much later in my presentation. But what we need to remember here is, as I told you, they do they have some important functions. One important function we spoke about yesterday was to prepare the People's Biodiversity Register in consultation with local people. Okay, so this is what the this Biodiversity Management Committee performs this function, which I told you is at the local taluka or in the panchayat level. Okay, the what researchers have to do and what they have to keep in mind when I'm talking about the Biological Diversity Act is that there are certain permissions, there are certain intimations, there are certain registrations that need to be done when you are doing anything or handling biological resources. Okay, so whenever there are any matter related to biological resources, you will have to keep in mind that there are legal provisions which you need to take care of and which you need to comply with. Okay. Also, the Biological Diversity Act talks about the quantum of benefits that is to be shared with the authority, who will in turn share it with the benefit claimers and the local bodies, like for instance, the BNC. Okay. So this is also explained. I will, in my later presentation, give you some idea about how this sharing of benefits takes place. Okay. So we also will remind ourselves of some of the important aspects which are there relating to the traditional knowledge in the Patents Act of India. Okay, so Section 3P we already know. So it already has a provision saying that traditional knowledge is an aggregation, duplication, cannot be patented. But there is also one requirement which talks about disclosure requirement. This disclosure requirement says that you have to disclose the source and geographical origin of a biological material used in an invention. Okay. Now, incorrect or wrongful disclosure is a ground for pre-grant opposition, or it is also for post-grant opposition, and your patent can also be revoked under this requirement in case this requirement is not complied with. Okay. Now, this as a researcher you need to remember, because if you have handled associated traditional knowledge which involves a biological material and you have not disclosed the geographical origin and have applied for a patent, then in that case your application is likely to be rejected on these grounds. Okay. So what are the provisions on the Biological Diversity Act? Okay, in access and benefit sharing. So there have been recent changes to the Act. Earlier, the Act was common to both the local residents, that is Indians, as well as foreign applicants. Okay, So in that case, there were some provisions wherein if you are going to access biological resource or associated traditional knowledge, you transfer results of research relating to biological resource or apply for IPR. In or outside India for an invention that is based on biological resource, you would have to have taken prior approval by signing an ABS agreement with the NBA. But currently, as the Act stands, it is that only foreign nationals have to take prior approval. Indians can only give prior intimation or register with the NBA, indicating that they are going to do any of these. But in case the Indian is collaborating with a foreign entity, then again, all those things will apply, which applies to a foreign entity. So you need to remember that. The equitable benefit sharing by NBA in accordance with mutually agreed terms and benefit claimers that I'll show you later on little bit. But what is important here is the Act allows for monetary or non-monetary benefits. Monetary will be in terms of some percentage, okay? That is, if you're having an annual turnover or if you are getting this much commercial benefit, some percentage of it has to be given back to the NBA. But in terms of non-monetary, benefits, you can actually do things for social benefit of the particular community, like creating schools or transferring know-how or helping them to make more economically viable products, or in some way increasing economic value of their products. So any of these things will also, as a non-monetary benefit, will also be allowed by the NBA on a case-to-case basis. Okay, so it is not simply monetary. Non-monetary benefit sharing is also applicable under the NBA. And whatever the percentage formula is decided on a case-to-case basis. Okay. So why we as a traditional knowledge digital library unit looking at these aspects of oral traditional knowledge or the undisclosed traditional knowledge that I spoke about. Okay. So while the traditional knowledge digital library, originally we only took up Ayurveda, Unani, Yoga, Siddha as per the government approvals for digitization of this information, we were told that we should also look into documentation of oral traditional knowledge, taking care to see that the integrity of the knowledge is preserved and the traditional ways of the licensed communities are not compromised. As we also discussed yesterday, especially in the context of traditional knowledge, the livelihoods of these traditional knowledge holders is a very, very important thing. Okay, so whenever we are handling, that is one of the foremost things we must remember, which we should not disturb. Okay, so the National IPR Policy of 2016 sort of recommended that TKDL should also make these efforts. Okay, hence we are also looking at oral traditional knowledge, and at some point of time we also have an MOU with the National Biodiversity Authority and are looking into include oral traditional knowledge. But right now we are not doing so because, as I mentioned, there are a lot of complexities involved in the documentation or digitization of oral traditional knowledge, especially since there is no legal provision or a legal law. There is no law which protects traditional knowledge per se. So we are taking it one step at a time with due cognizance of the knowledge that this has to be very carefully dealt with. Okay. So what are the concerns that we have whenever we handle oral TK? Some of these things came up yesterday. Okay. So it is like, this will maybe clarify many of the doubts that you had, and also raise some questions in your mind, which we can discuss later. But they are dealing with those questions that we had yesterday. So since we do not have any legal framework, also especially related to non-biological resources. Now we all know that some indirect provisions are there in the Biological Diversity Act, that is the BDA, but that only relates to biological resources. So we know the things which are like plants and all those ingredients which relate to that. But for the other materials, there is no legal framework. Specifically, we do not have any uniform standard operating procedures for recording TK. There is no standard procedure for prior informed consent, or a lot of people are not even aware that they have to seek prior informed consent before handling TK in any manner, including, accessing it. Okay. Also, what is happening is there is documentation by several entities that is happening in a non-structured manner. I showed you some examples yesterday of, the documentation that is happening. Okay, so these are in different formats. We don't know whether they have taken a prior informed consent and whether they are overlapping, whether the same work is being repeated. And it is not just government departments who are doing that. There are universities, there are commercial entities, there are many individuals. A lot of people are doing this work. I'm sure you are aware of. So it is necessary that such documentation, in case you're involved in, it should be done in an ethical manner. Okay. So there is a general lack of awareness and indifference to the empowerment of the knowledge holders. Okay. So although you may go to the knowledge holder, collect information, publish articles, or even do R&D based on that, the inclination or the intention is not there to help the knowledge holder who has actually given it to you. I mentioned the non-monetary ways you can help the knowledge holders. And one of the ways is empowering them in the sense that, increasing their economic benefits and so on and so forth. But such things are not thought of often when you take information from them. There is low awareness, obviously, of PIC and ABS, that is access benefit sharing norm. This leads to exploitation and misappropriation, whether intentionally or non-intentionally. Okay. Then I have written here publishing articles without due acknowledgement. We collect information, we access information, we do R&D, we publish papers. Okay. So what happens? Are we acknowledging the original traditional holder, knowledge holder from whom you took the information? Probably not. Okay. So this is in a way non-ethical handling of TK. Okay. So I will give you some ideas as to how this can be overcome or in what manner you can acknowledge them. Okay. Then sharing and dissemination without consideration of whether it is potential IPR material. Now we are talking about undisclosed TK, that is traditional knowledge which is not available in public domain. So in case you took that information and even the traditional knowledge holder shared it with you unknowingly without understanding its importance or its benefits, it could so happen that you took the knowledge and published it, whereas it possibly had some potential value for, an invention or a patent or some kind of trademark or some kind of design. So by, actually publishing it, you have deprived that person of gaining economic benefit through potential IPR, right? So that should also be kept in mind. You have to assess whether it is possible that some patent, trademark, or any other copyright or design rights can be gained over it. Okay? Then research, the validation, commercial utilization often do not result in any benefits to knowledge holders or the knowledge providers. We have several instances of MNCs taking information or taking knowledge from them, taking bioresources from them, creating multi-million empires, but where the knowledge holders have never been acknowledged. Okay. So what are the risks? We understand the risks. I'm just putting it on a slide to just tell you, remember these things. Okay. Do not jeopardize the rights of the knowledge holders by bringing unpublished knowledge into public domain. Okay. Be very wary of causing potential loss of livelihood and also unintentional or intentional misappropriation or biopiracy of traditional knowledge. Okay, so I have divided the key considerations taking into specific aspects. So the first thing we will be talking about is access and documentation. Okay, there are different aspects of handling traditional knowledge. So one of them is access and documentation. What you have to do when you go for access, you would go to a community, you're doing research, say, you'll go to the community, you want to understand how they're doing their work. So you will go talk to certain people, collect information, record it, and probably go back to your lab, work, or if you're doing some other type of research, you will go write a paper on it or whatever. You know what you have to remember? There is also something that is called moral rights. Okay, this is especially pertinent in the context of copyright. What are moral rights? Moral rights is their right of the holder. In copyrights, it's author, but here it will be the traditional knowledge holder, whereby you are not supposed to destroy the integrity of the original knowledge. Okay, so he has some right in the sense that you should maintain the sanctity of that knowledge, not distort it or present it in a manner that was not originally intended. Okay, and you have to respect privacy of the knowledge holder, because some of them may not want to share knowledge, and probably you have taken it from them without them understanding that they have actually shared the information. And there are a lot of other aspects. Okay, then when you take this the informed consent that I'm talking about, or even when you're discussing these things for accessing knowledge or documenting knowledge, ensure participatory consultative process. Okay, why I'm saying participatory? When there is a community, probably there is a village elder, okay, who talks on behalf of the others. There may be other, actors in the process, where you have women, you have children, probably you have other people. It should not so happen that you not take the views of all of these people and just restrict to someone, and probably by that you're taking a distorted consent. Okay, so ensure that the process is consultative and participatory. A very important aspect is building trust with knowledge holders and community. Often you would see that when you go to these knowledge holders or you try to talk to them, they are very suspicious of the person coming to them. They do not want to share the knowledge, probably because they have had bad experiences before, but essentially they do not want to share. Okay, so in that case, then you'll have to be very careful, and you will have to essentially build trust. Okay, you have to explain to them what you are doing, you have to explain to them why you're doing it, and you have to explain what are the benefits they could have. You should also explain the cons of the work. Okay, you have to tell there are also disadvantages. So once the person understands, probably with the particular understanding, they would be more willing to share information with you. Okay, then collective views. Why I'm talking about collective views? You may talk to a particular person and judge that, okay, that person has that information across the village border or somewhere else, the same kind of information will be there, or some different form of information will be there. So whether there is variation, duplication, you can assess all these things by talking to more number of people. Okay, then comprehensive information you record, especially important in the case of documentation. See, you collect information from remote places, from particular people. Those people may be there at that place. They may be nomadic. They may move off from there, or probably that particular person passes away, or any other thing can happen. So when you record such information, let it be comprehensive, including the geographical profile, including profile of the local population, ecological data, economic data, the in detail about the persons and the people who are involved in that activity, or who are owners of that traditional knowledge. Okay, that will help you in keeping that knowledge, preserving that knowledge, and also getting back in case you have some doubts, or whether if you want to connect with that person again. Okay, not only record the information that is given by them, also record the challenges or the apprehensions. Okay, that will solve an important aspect when you're trying to build trust with them. Okay, and preferably you should record it in audio video mode. Why? Because languages probably you wouldn't understand. At times when you record it, there may have been a gap of communication between the holder and you may have misrepresented or misunderstood what they said and then recorded it. And probably that information is not correct. Okay, so the best way would be to record the information in audio video mode, so that you can actually go back and check whether the information that is being disseminated or taken by you is all as intended. Okay. In the case of R&D, things are a little more complex. Yeah. Why? Because you talk about express consent here, but in R&D, you take that information and then you're going to do something with it. Okay. So one way of giving back to the society who have shared that knowledge with you would be to prioritize unaddressed problems of the community. Suppose you are working on some drug, or suppose you're doing some work related to health, then probably if the community faces some particular challenges, or but they have some particular problems, you could address it if you have the wherewithal and the bandwidth to do so. I do understand R&D requires a lot of funds, and probably it is not in your interest to do that work, but you could communicate with others and probably see to it, or at least facilitate that this unaddressed problems of the community are prioritized, especially if they are having certain, like it's an arid land and they have some knowledge relating to water conservation, and probably they do not have the resources to do it, then probably you could help them to do all those things. Okay. Then while doing R&D, one important thing is, see, these beliefs have come over a period of time. So if that is the case, and if you are doing R&D and in some way your R&D and the results and the outcome actually contradict their beliefs, okay, it is important to discuss it with them. Okay, and then you have to understand whether they still want you to proceed with this kind of R&D. Probably they do not want their views to be negated. And since they are the original knowledge holders, you will have to respect that. Okay, that is one ethical way of handling it. Then you can have them cooperate with them in terms of partnership. Like you could involve them in the R&D process. You could see whether they have any insights and whether they are able to help you. It could help not only in the R&D, in the development process, it could also help them understand certain things, and probably because of that, they will be able to improve upon what they have been doing in their life by doing it in the traditional way. Okay, it's more like a mutual benefit situation. Okay, and share all information regarding the research. And here it is important that you share it in a language that is understood by them. Okay, so it should not be that you're publishing in English and they do not understand English and you just give them an article. Okay, they're not going to understand anything. So it is important that you share it in the language that they do understand. And if you have material transfer agreements, especially when you have to have them, especially when you're accessing biological, chemical, or archaeological materials. Okay, so you should have very elaborate material transfer agreements in mutual consultation. All extant laws and procedures have to be followed. Like, for example, I told you in the beginning that if you are handling biological resource, the BDA, that is the Biological Diversity Act, is very important. So you will have to comply with all the things that are there in it. And if commercialization is there, then benefit sharing has to be ensured. Whether it is monetary or non-monetary, it depends on the way it is being handled. Okay. Then dissemination of information. So you collected information, you published the information, or you added some things. I'm not saying that you may have published the same thing. Probably you have done multiple research from multiple places, then put your own inputs in that and your original thoughts and created a publication. Okay. But when you do so, it is important that you share the prior informed consent with the along with the manuscript submission. This is actually more for the editorial part of the journals or publishers actually. But I have noticed that it is not very often that people ask for such things because of lack of awareness. So it is important that you share the prior informed consent. And if you are in the editorial team or if you are part of the editorial process or publishing process, then please keep in mind that this would be an important thing to take from the authors. Okay, and refrain from publishing confidential and secret information, because once it is published, it cannot be monetized, and then it is no longer, it becomes prior art. Okay, so it can no longer be, it cannot generate any IP right. Okay, then I told you, when you are acknowledging the people who have shared this information with you, one way could be adding them as co-authors. So when do we have co-authors with us in an article? That is, there is some significant contribution or any contribution from the other person. Now, when the knowledge, basic knowledge itself is shared by a group of people or a person, it would be important to share them as co-authors, or at least put them, predominantly acknowledge them in the article that you have submitted. Okay. Then due consultative process when you use for further research. So, okay, then there, all those things that I spoke about for the R&D should also be discussed with the particular group, because here you will be using the same information, disseminated information for further research. Okay, so, and respect moral rights. Okay, no distortion, and it should be as the information was meant to be. Okay. The other thing is awareness and education. Okay, awareness is one thing that we are doing today. Okay, while discussing what is traditional knowledge, what is protection of traditional knowledge, how to ethically handle traditional knowledge. So we are all learning about it. Okay, we also continue to learn with discussions with our stakeholders. Okay, so this is one way of creating awareness by teaching modules, capacity building workshops, and IKS is doing a wonderful job by bringing together people so that this awareness, moves over multifold. Okay. Then inclusion of ethical aspects, which is again an thing which the IKS is already doing. So by including this in the curriculum of educational courses, right from the beginning, you would understand that there is an ethical way of handling TK, and you imbibe that within yourself. So it will automatically reflect in the work that you do. Okay? And then due appreciation and award for knowledge holders and providers. This we have seen in the past. A lot of our knowledge holders have got Padma Award. Here in the screen is Lakshmi Kuti. She is from the Kani tribe. She is a traditional healer, basically for toxic bites like snake bites, and so she actually treats patients. She does not take any money from the patients that she treats. So it's more of a social thing for her, and she's been doing this for a very long time. And she's a very knowledgeable person and understands the herbs and the kind of material, that the ingredients that are available in their neighborhood, because of which she has been able to treat a lot of patients. Okay, so by doing these things like creating awareness about the work that they do and also giving them awards, there are other people also like the Honeybee Network and Srishti, which they have some certain awards for grassroots innovators and grassroots people who are having these knowledge and who do something for the benefit of society. Okay, so there is acknowledgement, but it is not enough. Okay, a lot of us do not know about all these things, and probably it is we need to create more awareness and more among more people about the work that these people have been doing all their lives. Okay, so yesterday we had this discussion about prior informed consent, and also I think one of you asked what should be the format of this prior informed consent while we collect information or document information. Okay, so I am putting something here. We have got this from the work by Professor Anil Gupta, who has been the founder of the National Innovation Foundation, also working with the Srishti and Honeybee Network now. It's a very this. And we had a committee to understand how oral traditional knowledge should be documented. And during the course of that, we developed this prior informed consent form in consultation with him. Okay. So primarily, you record all the details of the person. Okay, and so you are actually talking about written consent or authorization. This, remember, has to be written of any information that is going to be recorded, disclosed, or to which you're going to add value, R&D and so on and so forth. So the first thing is general. You record the details of the person, documenting your giving the knowledge and all those things. Then whether they are willing to share the knowledge for documentation or further value addition. You have a declaration by the knowledge holder, you will have a declaration by the recording organization, and then you will also have illustrative examples of ABS. Okay. Now, in the willingness to share information, there are certain aspects. Okay. I'm putting this as an explanatory note. In fact, you could also include the explanatory note along with the PIC so that the knowledge holder understands why you're recording it, and while you're recording it, what are the benefits and what are the disadvantages of such recording. Okay, so we have that they have to give voluntary consent. Okay, this is an option that is provided to the knowledge holder. He may or may not share it with you. This can be retracted later, and in case that happens, you have to again respect that. Okay? Then this voluntary consent can be for full disclosure, it can be for partial disclosure. Okay, so you can just record the information with you, but not share it with anybody. You can share only details of the knowledge holder. In that case, it's a partial. So in case any commercial organization or any business person wants to make use of this information for their other R&D or something, then they will get in touch with the knowledge holder directly. But you have brought them together by this kind of recording. And whatever you record, in a language understandable to the knowledge holder, please share it with them. It is important. You have taken that knowledge from them, it should be given back to them. So the same record will be handed over to the knowledge holder, the family, the community. Okay? Also, there are certain things you will have to make them understand. Like, for instance, yesterday we discussed that the same knowledge could be a part of the folk tradition also. It could be part of the publicly available knowledge also. So when it is publicly available knowledge and somebody takes it up for R&D, then there is no benefit exactly, because the thing is, it is already prior art. It is available information. So they will have to understand that in case such a thing happens, no benefits will, or any commercially viable product, if that does not result, then there will be no benefit. Okay. Then due acknowledgement, even upon further validation or value addition, including publications. Okay. So in case this you get used further, then also they will be involved in it, and they have the right to be involved in it. So that also has to be explained to them. Okay. There are some challenges in implementing prior informed consent. Again, since you will be working in the area, or you may be working in the area, you would have faced these challenges. Sometimes it is difficult to identify a community leader or a competent person, okay, who will give this PIC. Although it's a concentrated process and you have involved a lot of people, there will be one person or a group, one or two persons who would be actually giving the prior informed consent in agreement with the others. Okay, sometimes it's difficult to identify such a person. Sometimes you have dispute among community members, the knowledge holders and knowledge practitioners. Then in such a case, you do not know from whom to take the prior informed consent. Sometimes there can be several benefit claimers. Okay, there can be different communities who claim benefits. Then who to take the prior informed consent from? Then some may be willing to share information with you, but they would not sign anything, or they would not give you audio video prior informed consent. Okay, even in that case, you won't be able to use that information. Then new benefit claimers will crop up, especially when commercialization is close, and then they understand, okay, this is going to, give people money. Then probably you would have more and more claimers coming up. Then retraction of PIC, that's also one challenge. So in case retraction takes place, then what should be your further way forward? Okay. So for responsible and documentation and TK, remember three things. You should have free prior informed consent, and when there is any kind of taking of information or dissemination, you have to duly acknowledge. This can be authorship, inventorship, partnership, any of these. Okay, and access and benefit sharing. I just put some examples. These are actually examples where there have been products from the knowledge taken from the knowledge holders and commercialized. This is courtesy National Innovation Foundation. They have been doing a lot of work in this area. Some other examples also I have put. You will get this on the website of the National Biodiversity Authority, because I told you they are the ones who implement benefit sharing. So there have been instances, they may be very small amounts, but even then there are instances of benefit sharing. For instance, you have this where Indian researcher has shared, taken ethnomedicinal knowledge from the Siddhi community, and they have actually consulted with the Gujarat State Biodiversity Board and approved that then they approved it, saying that the findings of the research should be given to the NBA and the SBB concerned. Okay, and she also said that they can share it with for the benefit of the tribal community. Then L'Oreal has taken biological resources and paid upfront fees for accessing those resources. Similarly, we find that HUL has also paid upfront payment. You will find that you may think that these payments are so small, but it depends on the quantity that they are accessing or the quantity they're taking, and based on a lot of other factors. Okay. There are also complexities in benefit sharing. Okay, although we know that there are benefit sharing takes place and it is defined in the Act, sometimes the knowledge or practice will not pertain to utilization of biological resources. Then in the case, NBA's protocol or NBA, the Act, the BDA will not apply. Okay, the knowledge is distinct, but really nobody is interested in utilizing it. Okay, then knowledge is distinct. There are limited users and limited monetary value or benefit. So even though somebody may be willing to share it with you and you may be interested in actually doing R&D with it, but sometimes benefit sharing will not accrue because it's not really a viable product. Then if it is associated with some depleted or depleting natural resource, then that the conservation comes into picture, and probably then it is not good to do R&D or further exploit those resources. Then knowledge providers may impede percolation, so you have that conflict of knowledge holders, producers. Then the benefit sharing also becomes complex. Then there are too many benefit claimers. Then how to fix contributions to the different deserving parties. Some of them you may not know about. And sometimes, rarely, it may so happen that the ownership of the resource and the knowledge are distinct and not integrable. Then what would you do? How would you share the benefits? Okay, so there you will have to sit. This will be a consultative process. You will have to talk to the owner of the resource, then the practitioner who uses the resource. So that associated TK and the biological resource are distinct. Then you'll have to sit and understand how the benefit sharing is to be done. Okay, there are several instances of good practices. I have given some examples on this slide. You can go and have a look at it later, where international companies have actually implemented benefit sharing. But as a university, as educational institutions, as people who are involved in the process of traditional knowledge in research or dissemination or access, you must create good governance and institutional structures. Okay, and it is important that you are involved in the conservation and maintaining the natural habitat, and create mechanisms for appropriate distribution of the income. Okay, and also if you are an institution doing work in research in TK, you can advise your students and researchers to take prior informed consent and also upload the prior informed consent when they do the submit manuscripts. Okay, and also you can explore the possibility of constituting an ethics committee, traditional knowledge ethics committee, to handle all the above matters. For instance, I have put some global best practices. These are actually institutions. You would find the code of conduct in them. You can, in case you are planning to constitute such things in your institution, you can go and have a look at these particular sites, where you will get a lot of information on how to institute these things. One thing I wanted to just show to you, since this has been implemented recently, is the biological diversity, access to biological resources, and knowledge associated thereto. This is one of the regulations related to sharing of benefits, which has been notified recently in the Gazette of India. Okay. One important thing you have to understand is that in this case, we discussed about digital sequencing information yesterday. In this particular regulation, as a biological resource, they have also included digital sequencing information. So in case you are handling digital sequencing information, remember, it is a part of this act, this regulation. Okay. So in case you're accessing for bio-utilization, biosurvey, or commercial utilization, there is a percentage you have to return. For instance, based on annual turnover, up to point, and here it is also categorized as, if the annual turnover is 1 crore, if it is less than 5 crore, then you don't have to do anything. But above 5 crore, there are certain percentages that are mentioned. So this is up to 0.6%. If it is for a high value product or a ingredient, or if it is for an ingredient which is or in near extinction, then the percentage is much higher. Similarly, for transferring results of research, you'll have to pay 1 to 5%. 1% if you're going to take it yourself, 5% if you are going to hand it over to a third party. Similarly, for commercial utilization through IPR. Okay. Calculation is basically based on the sector, the nature, the quality, ecological impact, and many other things, and decided on a case-to-case basis. You can have a look at the site of NBA. These things are available. So through the discussions today, or probably what are we looking at, is ethical handling of knowledge, prior informed consent mandatory, sharing recorded information with knowledge givers, sustained livelihoods, promoting the sustained livelihoods of knowledge holders, ensuring fair, equitable benefit sharing, conserving habitats, and also creating models and sharing for sharing knowledge to third parties. And probably when I am giving this information to you, hopefully you would be able to transmit it to many other people and create an ecosystem where this ethical handling of traditional knowledge takes place. Okay. So we have created a guidance document for this. we are probably, we will share it internally within the CSIR, and at some point of time, probably with others also within the UGC, ambit of UGC to the universities, so on. But this would take some time. So thank you so much for your patient listening. Thank you, Piyush ji. I'm stopping the share. Thank you.
Yes. Bahu dhanyavad, ma'am, for your informative session. This is very helpful for us who are involved in research and education, and it also helpful for policymaker and practitioner also. So we should remember those concerns when we deal with our TK, traditional knowledge. So, pranam to all the participants for listening. We are sharing the assessment link in the chat box. Where also we will upload in the Google folder. Please complete your assessment quickly within 7 to 8 minutes. You have 10 minutes. So please complete within time. Then we will come to our next session, question and answer. We'll discuss. Namaste. Link is working. So whoever is facing any problem, please copy the link and use in your device. Please copy the link and use in your Chrome or whatever window you are using. Please copy the link and use. 1 minute left. Please submit your assessment. Please submit. I hope everyone has submitted. So we request all the participants, please put your question in the chat box, or you may raise your digital hand so we can unmute you to ask your question. Whatever you want, you can do. Ma'am, there is a question. How is misinformation? It's jumping. No. How is misinformation detrimental? Kindly share examples to help understand the concept. How is misinformation detrimental? Detrimental.
Yeah, but the thing is, misinformation is a very general term. I don't know in what context the question is being asked. Maybe the person can be asked to clarify.
No, ma'am. If we mention traditional knowledge of a tribal community regarding a health practice with a bio resource in a book or publication, can a third party may take information and do R&D, research and development, and make profit out of it? What to do in that case? What to do in that case?
Okay. So the first and foremost thing is that once it is published, it is public domain information. Okay. So anybody can make use of that information. For instance, if you do R&D in the lab and publish your results, the whole idea of publishing is that you take up that for further research. Okay. But here there is one thing that is involved is that it is information related to a particular knowledge holding group or a traditional knowledge holding community per se. See, the ethical way of doing things is if you, when you publish the article, have you acknowledged the traditional knowledge holder? Have you written anything regarding their whereabouts or, where they're, present and things like that. That's one thing which is important. And the ethical way of the third party doing research will be that they get in touch with the people concerned and consult with them when they are proceeding with this R&D. That would be the right way of handling from the third party perspective. Okay.
Yes.
I hope that answers your question.
This was at the outset when Madam mentioned about the right way to handle information. Is it a question or feedback, ma'am? My So coming to the next question, my question, Madam, please clarify the difference between National Diversity Authority, Department of Biotechnology and Biodiversity Management Committee.
Okay. Department of Biotechnology is entirely different. It's a department which does not deal with any of these things that we are talking about here today. Okay. It will be dealing with the research in biotechnology and all biotechnology affairs. You may have heard of BIRAC and things like that. All those things come under DBT. But the National Biodiversity Authority is under the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change. Okay. Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And this authority is specifically to implement the Biological Diversity Act. That is, it handles the things related to access, benefit sharing of the biological resources and associated traditional knowledge. Okay. The Biodiversity Management Committee, there are three entities in the as per the Biological Diversity Act, which the Act itself specifies. One is the NBA, which is the national body. The second is the State Biodiversity Board, which is the state level body. Under the State Biodiversity Board is the BMC, that is the Biodiversity Management Committee, which will handle all the affairs related to the publication or collection of information, especially in the People's Biodiversity Register. They are the ones who are in direct contact with the actual knowledge holder. Okay. But implementation in terms of access benefit sharing is done by NBA or the SBB. So in case you take access permissions and things like that, that has to be done at the NBA level or the SBB level. But when the benefit sharing accrues, so there is a percentage that is set. That percentage, a part of it will go to the NBA. That's 10 to 15% goes to the NBA, and half of it will be shared with the with the SBB and the NBA, and the remaining will be shared with the benefit claimers, of which the Biodiversity Management Committee is also one. So they also get a share of the benefit because they are the ones who at the ground level are handling all this sharing and communicating with the tribal knowledge, the knowledge holders and so on and so forth. So they are one part of, they're also created as per the definitions that is provided in the BDA Act.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. It was very informative session. I just wanted to ask one clarification, ma'am, regarding the obligations on the part of the traditional knowledge holders. Let's say now someone goes to them and gets some knowledge, and then he does something which is commercially or maybe something they have created. Let's say they have created a drug, they have created something. Now the same traditional knowledge holder, because he may not be aware of all this, he will again disclose this to some other chap without telling this actually has already happened. In that case, what is the rule position now to ensure that because now he is already getting the benefit from the first party, we do not know because this has not been in your knowledge and something has happened like this. Then what can happen in that scenario? Did any such cases were there in the earlier past?
See, first of all, I wouldn't call it an obligation of a traditional knowledge holder unless you have had some mutual agreement with him. Okay. And this has to be in some written form. Otherwise, he has no obligation. because he has a knowledge, he's sharing. It's in a mutually exclusive way. He's sharing with you also, he's sharing with someone else also who came to him. But here, as you say, there is a that is the aspect of benefit sharing which is involved. Okay, so in that case, then this usually goes to the National Biodiversity Authority. Has it gone that way, or you have done something with him in a by yourself? How did the benefit sharing happen?
Ma'am, this not in my personal experience, but I'm just asking what is the
Yeah,
legal context in this? Yeah.
so if it is not done in a, it's not done in a mutually, I mean, like it's an exclusive thing. That is, it doesn't mean that he shares with you and shares with us. Unless there is an agreement, you will not be able to impose anything. Is what I'm trying to
There
say.
will
There
be,
has to be a
yeah,
mutually binding agreement. Yeah.
but as we have understood today from your session, that ethical way of doing is to also share the benefits to them, also make
Yes.
an agreement, in fact, from the beginning till end.
Yes.
So if you have taken any benefit from them, those things must be passed on to them in the right proportions as per the Gazette notification right now. So now if someone does all this, which is supposed to be done by us, and then because now this traditional knowledge, as we also understand, it can be in the entire group. There are many stakeholders who claim that that is theirs. There are a lot of things which can happen in that communities of that nature. Okay, taking all those other things apart, now if the same thing happens and their adversary, contemporary, competitor again gets the same thing, and then he has put so much of thing on research development, does something, and then there is a competition in that. Of course, it's a hypothetical case I am asking, but the thing is it can happen that way. So what are the provisions for now? It should be fair on the both the sides. So that's what I just wanted to check.
So the best way, as I said, would be a legal agreement. Okay, if there is a legal agreement, then you have recourse to the court. Okay, because I do understand in case of R&D, you will have a lot of money involved, a lot of funding involved. So in that case, especially when you are putting it, putting it that way, and then what you can do is see, the first and foremost when you're doing R&D is think about protecting your work through IP rights. Okay, because it is not the same as the traditional knowledge. It will be something over and above that you're doing. Okay, so even if he shares that knowledge with someone, if you are IP protected, then a competitor cannot come in picture. You have your own rights too, which you can, if it's a violation or an infringement, you have recourse in court. So that will be one way of doing it, and also having a binding legal agreement so that things are clear between the two of you.
Yeah. Thank you. That can happen, but maybe in the R&D, it will take some time from the time
Yeah.
that you have taken the knowledge,
Right.
and by the time you really come to the thing and get things patented, or maybe take
No,
something.
the date that you apply for the patent is important. Okay, so most R&D is done this way. See, when you start some sort of work, it's usually you create the groundwork, understand what you're going to do, and you file a provisional specification. Get a 1 year time for the complete specification. So protect your invention as quickly as you can. That is the way all businesses do it, because it's not just in this case. Competitions exist everywhere, especially the competitors come to know of the work that you're doing. You know how it happens. It's cutthroat competition. So this happens in the industry. So their way of doing it is keeping their information as secretive as possible and applying for a patent, that is creating a provisional specification or something, and putting a date as at the earliest. That would be the right way to go about it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So who exactly gives prior informed consent in the case of TK? The individual, the community, or the local governing body?
See, ideally, the PIC should be given by the individual or the community which holds that particular knowledge, not a local governing body, because local governing body has no locus standi in the ownership of the information. They may be an intermediary and they may be helping you to connect with them, but they won't be the persons who are actually holding that information, unless you can't find an owner. Okay, so that case maybe it will become a little different. But if there is a particular individual or a community or a family that is practicing, you will have to take from them on prior informed consent.
Yes. From the research point of view, do we need to involve PIC form to a community or knowledge holders for writing a book or publication after a survey about their tribal knowledge?
Yes, that's also dissemination of the information. So PIC will be important there.
Yes. Another is regarding queries and feedback. Where can I write or contact for further queries related to this in future? See, so on Monday we'll have the final session, the assessment. The final assessment will be there also. So that's the major part. There will be 40 MCQs. You have to complete your assessment within 50 minutes, and it will be preceded by a short concluding session will be taken by our madam, Dr. Saptagiri madam. Then you will have 10 days, more than 10 days to complete your feedback form. And if you have any queries in between, you can write to IKS Outreach or IKS Workshop, these two email IDs from where you are getting information. So then we will collect your questions and queries, and we'll try to solve in the interactive sessions. These two sessions are scheduled on 25th of August and 26th. So that these tools are scheduled for discussion. Astu, so you can write to us. Ma'am. Oh, where could we see the recording? So all recordings are uploaded in the Google Drive folder which you have received through your mail. Please use your Google folder. Everything is there.
There's one
And
question,
yes.
Piyush, which I don't know, Dr. Charlotte has written. How to identify the authorized knowledge holder? What if another or new claimer challenges it? Okay, that's why we are talking about, Dr. Charlotte, we are talking about the consultative process to identify the correct knowledge holder who would be authorized to share the PIC on behalf of a community. Okay, but it is not unheard of that there is another claimer or someone else who challenges it. This will all come through mutual consultation only. It has happened in the past, and it's usually you have to talk to everybody and then work your way through a mutual consensus. That would be the only way forward. And of course, you will have to understand the authenticity of the new claimer also, whether they actually are a benefit claimer or not. Thank you.
Yes, Nilaji, if you are there, please ask your question. There is another question. Kindly share the session PPTs on the drive. So PPTs are uploaded in the drive. Please check the folder. There is a specific folder for PPTs. So regarding the certificates, there is a question. So to receive a certificate, you have to score 75% marks overall, including final assessment. Astu? We can try to find the last question, otherwise we can close. Yes. Where to submit queries for 25th and 26th. On after Monday night, I will share the feedback form. There you can put your questions and other feedbacks also. So that's a big form I will share on Monday. Please fill the feedback form. If you have any questions, please you can mail to IKS outreach at aicte-india.org. Ma'am, so with your permission, with
Yes.
mantra we can close. Oh. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Pranam to all the participants.
All.
So please prepare next 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, for your final assessment. Everything will be uploaded in Google Drive. Please prepare for your final assessment. Astu,
Thank you.
Pranam, ma'am. See you.
Yes, thank you.
Astu.
Thank you very much.